Caleb, you have said for a long time that the Big Ten got the better television deal. Everybody has agreed with you. I tried my best to talk to people at SEC Media Days. I ran out of time with the commissioner to have a proper retort. I think I have a retort now. I think that the college football playoff is in lockstep with the SEC. And I think the SEC will get preferential treatment. Is that worth giving up $10, $100, $100 million? I don't know, but I will tell you that it's worth something. Wouldn't you agree with that?
It was worth something. I thought it would have been worth the contract with ESPN. The only negative I have for the SEC on this is they jumped into the contract. They could have demanded way more from ESPN, and ESPN still would have paid for it. The SEC, I looked this up yesterday for those who you don't know. The payout for the college football playoff is $6 million per school. So your conference is going to get $6 million if one of its teams is in the college football playoff. That's on top of like the SEC just generically getting 29% of the revenue and the Big Ten getting 29% of the guaranteed revenue with the deals. Then there's like the revenue that comes from the actual like games themselves and the attendance and all of that. The SEC could make, I think that's going to help the SEC in the sense of whatever you guys think, the college football playoff is embedded with ESPN and the SEC is embedded with ESPN. So the college football playoff committee, if it's down to one or two teams, they are going to favor the SEC significantly more.
I'll just sit here quietly and tell you why I've been right the whole time. You just tell me.
Say wham.
That doesn't prove you right, Dave.
Okay.
Say wham.
The payout for that one extra SEC team, $6 million, when the Big Ten in a year is bringing home $400 million more, is laughable. And here's the other part you're missing.
I'm your huckleberry.
Here's the other part you're missing. The payout for the NCAA tournament. Hey, Dave, what network carries the NCAA tournament? In basketball.
In basketball, that would be CBS.
Who just signed a deal with CBS? That would be the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think the same thing that applies for the college football playoff with ESPN applies with CBS and the Big Ten? You don't think the Big Ten is going to get all the preferential treatment to the NCAA tournament?
I believe that, first of all, I've said this before, I think there's flexibility in this television contract, but I don't know that 100%. I haven't read it, Caleb. So we're going to work on the premise that it is what it is and the numbers are what we are. You're asking me if I think that the SEC made a mistake signing a contract that was valued at far less than the Big Ten, but it was with ESPN. I would take that connection to ESPN over what the Big Ten got and being spread out all over God's creation. They got more, Caleb, because they were bringing LA to the table, Los Angeles. I hate to tell you, though, television networks, nobody cares about UCLA or Southern California and LA. You will not even see a car flag driving around that place unless you drive directly to the Rose Bowl. So, Caleb, I believe that long term that the SEC will have more leverage to bring in more money, and I think that they will see the SEC as their cash cow.
Dave, I haven't, but maybe you have. Have you ever played the stock market?
Yes, to some extent.
Isn't it true that it's not important how valuable something is? It's important how valuable people think something is if you're an investor, right?
Yes.
The Big Ten won because they probably know the LA market's not as valuable. But the networks don't know that, and they know the networks don't know that. So they're still raking in money. And Dave, let me tell you a secret. The networks are never going to learn it. Never. As long as you and I are alive, they will never learn it. How long has it been? They still fall in love with market size. Do you know how outdated of a concept market size is in today's age? And the networks still fall for it. And the Big Ten knows that. So the question is who fleeced who. In any business deal, the question is who fleeced who, right? And the Big Ten fleeced the networks by a long shot. They played them for a fiddle. The SEC let ESPN play them. And that's the problem. This SEC contract is going to single-handedly save ESPN. And this is something like we talk about, like the Big Ten. People criticize the NBA for this because they're laughing like the NBA doesn't do well with ratings, but then they keep getting these big contracts. And that is true. The NBA doesn't care about ratings because they know that they can fleece networks and digital providers to give them to pay top dollar. And Kadzukian comes in and says the networks aren't that stupid. Yes, they are. I can tell you guys right now, television network executives are really, really dumb. Okay, so they fell for it, and they fell for the idea that the market size matters. The Big Ten fleeced them.
I will say this. The ESPN and SEC deal, ESPN needed the SEC more than vice versa.
Yes.
So that's the thing that did confuse me, is that why didn't they go out and get a better deal with more money? And just for those that don't know, real quick, 15 seconds. What are the numbers that we're talking about between the Big Ten and the SEC?
The Big Ten has a 7-year deal across 3 networks worth $7 billion. The SEC has sorry?
Go ahead.
The SEC has a 10-year deal with just ESPN and ABC worth $3 billion. So that means not only is the SEC raking in $300 million to the Big Ten, $700 million. Now, yes, the Big Ten has to pay out more teams, but only 2. So it's still significantly more. But also the Big Ten is going to be able to re-up their contract in 7 years. Now, Dave, you could say, and I just don't believe it, you could say maybe the networks will realize they were fleeced, and the Big Ten is going to have a major issue trying to renegotiate a better deal in 7 years. Maybe you believe that. I don't know. But I think that this is going to be the issue, and it's not going to be worth the extra college football playoff team the SEC gets. But I will tell you, if you're a fan of the SEC, it is going to help you, because it comes down to Tennessee and Penn State, and even if Tennessee's 9-3 and Penn State's 10-2, Tennessee's getting it 100 times out of 100 because of the affiliation with ESPN.
Let's turn to recruiting for a moment and why Tennessee might well be quarterback you. I mean, this is really happening. By the way, somebody on the message board absolutely nailed what I was going to say. Sankey adds Clemson and Florida State, then renegotiates. I think that is the shoe that's going to drop, and that will give him more flexibility to negotiate. Now, it doesn't mean he shouldn't have made the bad deal in the first place, right?
Here's the flaw with that. Sankey added Texas and Oklahoma and couldn't renegotiate. How can you not renegotiate when you had Texas and Oklahoma? Why does ESPN? Here's the thing. I learned this from T. Scott Jones. I told you guys this yesterday. People like to leak the idea that contracts and agreements aren't ironclad. Most of the time, they're ironclad. If both parties came in and knew what they were signing. There is no way that the SEC, why would ESPN even renegotiate? They'd be like, you can go at Texas, Clemson, and Florida State. We're sticking with the deal. That's just more money for us. Come renegotiate with us in 7 years again. There's nothing the SEC can do. Can the SEC, Dave, really say they were coerced into signing this deal with ESPN?
Well, no, they're grown people. I mean, I don't understand. Yeah. They signed the deal.
So why would ESPN? Why y'all are saying that Sankey's going to renegotiate? It takes 2 parties to renegotiate. Why would ESPN renegotiate at all?
Nah.
If you were running ESPN, Dave, what would you tell the SEC if they came to your office and said we want more money?
If you brought me Clemson and Florida State, I'd listen.
I'd say come back in 7 years when your contract's up. What are you going to do? Can't go anywhere else.
I just don't think that they're that short-sighted, Caleb. I realize that I'm giving them a lot of faith, but I don't believe they're that short-sighted to make that mistake. I just believe there's a way out of that. I could be proven wrong.
Covered too many people in power over my life to know that people in power are very often short-sighted and are not as smart as everybody thinks they are.